So here we are at the tea room in Covington. We're sitting here having a nice, beautiful lunch on this pretty Saturday afternoon after Eden's little baby pageant she had. And Mom is going to talk about how her and Dad met. So let's hear the story, Mom.
Your dad used to always love to talk about this story. It's funny, we both like going to the library, and I was in the library at Shepherd Air Force Base. And your dad was there too, but I didn't know he was there. And I was studying. And it was the year 1975. And after it was getting close to the library shutting down, I decided to go over to the rec center, which was normally my routine, and sit over there and listen to the band in the back and have my cup of coffee and study. And lo and behold, your dad came in. Well, I found out later that your dad had eyed me at the library, and he was trying to pick up courage to come over and talk to me, and when he did, I had left, and he was disappointed. And his habit was also, when the library closed, to go over to the rec center. So that's how he ended up at the rec center. And he was sitting at a table that was facing me, but on the opposite side. And he went around and made a little comment, picked up a soft drink, came back to my table and asked if I would mind if he sat there. Well, in the meantime, I was thinking, I know he's going to come over to my table, so you might as well just come on over. And we talked, got no studying in, and then we decided to go in the back and listen to the band. And while we were back there, we just kind of looked at each other, and it was just, there was this chemical reaction that was going on between the both of us, and we could just feel it. So we decided afterwards to go for a walk. So we went for a long walk, and we went down by the golf course and around the dormitories. And at that time, I was staying in the old Vietnam dormitories, and the women were separated from the men, and you couldn't hold hands or anything like that. It was called PDA. And we couldn't go past a certain point in front of the dormitory, and your dad kissed me goodnight. Oh my God, that was a wonderful kiss. And then I went in, and he went back to his dormitory, and he lived in a fancier, more modern type of dormitory. And so it was a great night. And so then I got moved from, well, your dad would come by sometimes and throw pebbles. I lived on the second floor, and he would throw pebbles at my window trying to get me to come down. And then I ended up, and I thought that was kind of unique and special because that's like something out of a movie. Then I got moved to another dormitory, and I happened to look out the window one night, and I noticed your dad was playing tennis, and he had told me that he likes to play tennis. So I enticed one of the girls to go down with me and just to casually walk by the court and watch him play. And so he was playing, and then he noticed me, and when they were done with their match, he came out and started talking to me again. And again, we just went on a long walk. Either way, we were companions until he left the base. And I thought to myself, as he was driving away in the taxi, if that guy ever asked me to marry him, I would say yes. There was nothing going on with that, but I just thought that. So your dad went off, and he went to Michigan, and from there I went to Scott Air Force Base in Illinois, and your dad would come down to visit me from Michigan. And one time when he came down, he just said, I think we should get married. And I didn't say anything. It wasn't a proposal. It was just a suggestion. And so I didn't reply. He ended up going back to his base. And then he called me on what is called Audubon. You can call for free and call anywhere. And he called me at the dormitory and asked me, well, what did you think about what I had mentioned? And I said, what are you talking about? He goes, about us getting married. And I'm going, you want to get married? And he goes, yes. And I said, okay. So we started planning our wedding. And so and she's smiling at me. You like that story. And so that's how your dad and I started planning our wedding. And so we planned it for April 1976, the bicentennial year. Neither one of us had been around each other.
And what was the
much.
day? April what?
April 24.
April 24.
1976. Got married. We had about 4 days together, and then he had to go back to his base, and I was still there because I was still going through my program. And then he came down for the 4th of July, and we went to St. Louis, Missouri. And we sat on the grounds by the Gateway Arch as they had this big display of fireworks and
Look at her.
not paratroopers, but jumpers with parachutes to come down by the Gateway Arch. And the Gateway Arch wasn't totally completed underneath at that time. But it was just, I reflect back on that time, and it was just amazing. From there, eventually, we got together in Michigan, and that's where your dad was stationed. He tried to come to Scott, couldn't get to Scott. He tried getting transferred to Germany because he had an assignment that got canceled, couldn't do that.
And so Michigan was where David was born.
Michigan is where David was born. About 2 years and 8 months later. And Michigan, the Lake Huron freezes over, so that was our backyard until we got onto the base. And then from Michigan, we went to South Carolina, and in South Carolina, Christopher came along, Matthew came along, and then I was pregnant with John Andrew. But we traveled from Charleston, South Carolina, back to Shepherd Air Force Base, and that's where John Andrew was born. And then later we were blessed with Natalie being born. So those two were Texans. And from there, we went off to Guam. And from Guam, we came back to Louisiana, and I was stationed in Biloxi, Mississippi. And that's where I retired. And so your dad did most of the work of raising you guys at home. And your dad was wonderful. He loved to play tennis. He loved all sports. He was good at everything that he did, but his major focus and his greatest blessing were you guys. He loved each of you so much, and he liked the way
He loved you.
and he loved me. And he would have his input on how you dressed, and we had issues with different things, health issues, but despite all of that, your dad loved you guys so much. And he loved me. And so even though we may have argued all the time, we were like both competitive with one another. But your dad always loved you guys, and you were truly blessed, and you guys have great, great genes. So always remember your dad.